So this is it was service checker data for VRV equipment. When it's recorded, it's saved in a file format called .das. .das is what we call the raw data file, right? So it's going to create two files. It's going to create a .das and it's going to create a .dak, right? This is customer information, info, and this is actually your raw data, the data that it recorded and all the information. And so these are your two raw formats. What you're going to find is in Service Checker, after you record a set of data, you're not going to find just these raw format files. This is saved somewhere on your computer, which I can have a video for that on YouTube. But for this instance, this is what it saves it as, these two file formats. Service Checker only speaks this. This is just the customer information that it puts into the actual profile. You're going to find there's another layer to this where you can actually export all the data into what we call a CSV file. CSV file, everybody should understand, is a Windows Excel file, right? So what it does is it can take this format that it recorded it in that works only with Service Checker, and it can take all of that and put those numbers into an Excel spreadsheet for you. Well, today we're going to learn how to take this information that it exports and put it into what we call a macro, right? Has everybody ever heard that word before? So a macro is a combination of sheets, equations, formulas that take the information that you're saying, hey, here's my raw information of just a bunch of numbers on a spreadsheet with timestamps that go on to a forever. If it's a 63-hour recording, they go on forever, right? You can keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. And so what it's going to say is it's going to say, hey, take this information and put it into a format that I can actually easily understand and see. And so the macros that I have that I'm going to give you today take the raw data, it gets exported to a CSV file from Service Checker, then we're going to take the raw data and we're going to plug it into a macro, and the macro allows you to actually, it'll take all the information here, temperature sensors, pressure sensors, and it will overlay it over a piping diagram that will actually move over time so you can see where the temperature is on the pipes. This is a learning tool, right? And this is the program that I used when I started that actually made things start clicking for me. They actually showed me the correlation. They showed me, okay, well, from here all the way to here, you know, it's 74 degrees, but over here, it's 7 degrees, right? And so when you look at the macro and you see this, because these refrigerant pipes are connected, because it takes the service manual piping diagram and it lays numbers on top. And you can click a button and the numbers change. And as I see the numbers change, I can actually look at the diagram and say, well, these pipes are connected and there's nothing in between here, right? Except for, let's say there's a nice little refrigerant filter, right? And I would say, well, okay, well, from here to here, the only thing that's in between them is this. It's probably plugged.
A strainer?
Yeah, a strainer. Yep. Nah, not a filter. I don't know why I use that terminology. But that's what the macro is designed to do. So the macro is a learning tool. So you know, I've kind of given you guys the school of hard knocks and thrown you into the deep end with learning Service Checker data. Just by looking at it on the computer, it's like looking at the matrix. It takes a very long time to see the information that makes sense. I know that you guys still have a lot of questions about it. So with that, we're just gonna focus on exporting the information, and then from there, putting it into the macro, and then working through the macros to find the problems so that you guys can get stronger at this. You guys are gonna have the macros on your computers now so that when you do record Service Checker data in the field, you can export it and then pull it into these. The only problem is the macros stop supporting Amirion. So you know, there's only the latest version only does up to VRVX, which is all the stuff that we're gonna see anyways right now for service. So it's not a big deal, but know that it's just a learning tool, right? So you're not gonna, you, as a service technician, you can't just go to a job site, record 8 hours of data and say, well, I'll fix it tomorrow, right? Let me get all that information, then put it in the macro, and then I'll find the problem. You will have to learn how to use the information you learn in this class, going through the macros. The idea of the macros is to go back and look at data that stumped you before that you couldn't find the correlation between the two, put it in there, and then work the problem to say, okay, now I see the problem. And then when you're out in the field, you'll know, okay, anytime you see these things come together, you know exactly what the problem is because you've been through this before. Again, these are learning tools. A lot of guys, they go through classes, and they teach us in S&T too, but they go through this and they land here, and they say, well, I can't troubleshoot without this. And it's a crutch. And this is not a crutch, it's a learning tool. So it's designed to help you correlate the temperatures, the speeds, everything that's going on in the system to an actual diagram picture so that you can learn how to troubleshoot the system live. That's the end goal. The end goal is troubleshooting live, not actually looking at recorded data like I do. Recorded data is great, but when you're fixing things on site, you have to be able to look through it and see exactly what information is relevant. So why is this important? Because remember, this is the folder. For macros to work, they have to go, okay, where am I pulling the information from, right? They go, okay, where am I getting this information from? And the program that was built for this use says that the folder has to say this, and it has to be on the C drive. So if it's not here, when you go to press the button in the macro, it'll say, I'm sorry, I didn't see anything. I didn't find anything. So we're creating the folder where you're going to put the data to pull the macro, okay? So now that we have the folder created, you can now go to your drive.
They can have another name?
What's that?
That folder?
No.
They need to be that.
Specific.
Yeah. There you go.
The program is designed to look for one thing. That's it.
That name.
And if it can't find it, you misspelled it, lowercase, whatever it may be. You're also going to find that when it finds this information and it pulls it in and it does its, computing, that the file has to say this. It has to say data. You'll notice that every single one of these are kind of named the same, and then they have an underscore, and then it says LU, what? LU01. That's indoor unit 1. So when you save the service checker data, right, when we say go from here to here, it's going to say, what do you want to name it? And you're going to say, I want to call it data. You're going to get a lot of guys who say, well, it's asking me for a name, so I'm going to call it whatever the job site name is. And if you call it the job site name here, when you go to name it, you're going to find that you have to go through, how many files is this? You're going to have to go through 36 files, 35 files, and rename every single one of them. Because this part where it says data in the front, this is the name right here. This is the name that you pick. And so if you're exporting this for a macro, when it goes to ask you what do you want to call this, when you go to save it, you want to say data. Now the reason this is going to get really confusing is because when you go to save this, you're going to want to make sure that you put it into a folder that you know basically what it's supposed to be, right? Otherwise, when you do this 6 times, everything says data. You have no idea what it is and what it's supposed to be, what job site it's for. So when you're going from here, from service checker, right, over here to Windows, you're going to want to make sure that you put it in the file name for the job site that it's supposed to be for. Don't save it directly in the data file to create the macro because, again, these names are all going to be the same. The data I export today, and then I export it again and again, and different types and different job sites, they're all going to say the same thing. They're going to have different number of indoor units. You're going to have no idea what job site that's for. Now, you can always go into that file and see what it looks like, but again, just this is the routine here. So we're taking it from there. We're going to save it over here. We're going to call it data, but we're going to put it in a brand new job site folder, either on our desktop or in our documents, wherever you guys want to save this stuff. Call it the name of the job, right? Whatever customer. And then save that raw data in there. And then from there, you can copy it out, paste it into the actual folder, a C drive folder, data. And then when you go to use the macro, it'll pull it in from there.
So do we have to delete everything in the data folder?
Yes, every single time. Yep. Otherwise, what you can do is you can go in and you can copy and paste, and it'll say, hey, do you want to replace duplicates? And you can say yes, but the problem is if the data you're transferring only has 10 indoor units, and the data that's already in here has, 32, then it's going to leave any remainders after that. And then when you go to pull the macro, you're going to have a bunch of indoor units doing some crazy stuff that have nothing to do with your unit. How is this unit in cooling? My outdoor unit's in heating. With this program, as you guys can see here, I opened up one of them, but you can't open them up, but I'll show you back again. Yeah. See OU1? Data OU1 right here. You guys see that? Yep. I double clicked on OU1 because I have to verify one thing. that all of my service checker targets are here. You're going to find that service checker has a problem with doing things the same way every single time. Some of you guys have learned that the hard way. And so when it spits out the data, it goes this, and then it goes right here, data, what is that? OU1, okay. What you're gonna find is the way that it pulls in the outdoor unit data, there's 3 sets, right? Because there's 3 outdoor units, or 2 outdoor units, 1 service checker. So you're gonna see data OU1, data OU2, data OU3. The problem is the way it names those could be in complete random order, because then you've got this one here, 02, data OU03. So what's going to happen is this. This is what it's supposed to be. This is supposed to be your targets. This is supposed to be your OU1. And this is supposed to be your OU2, or master and sub. When it saves the service checker data, you're going to find that when it exports it, it's going to export these names here. And you're going to automatically think, okay, well, I'm good to go. And you're going to go and you're going to hit run macro. And when you go to hit run macro, you're going to find, you're like, wow, okay, this is supposed to be a temperature sensor here, but it's telling me pressure for some reason. And then there's supposed to be compressor speeds here, but it's telling me a temperature for some reason. Like, it doesn't make any sense. And then you're going to go down and you're going to actually double click on the file, and you're going to look at this and you're going to find, wait a minute, it put sub-unit data as data OU1. And so when I populate the macro, it takes all the information from this file and puts it where the targets should be. And it just starts plugging in numbers, because that's what it's supposed to do. It doesn't know any better. It's a spreadsheet. It's designed to take data numbers and it's supposed to plug them in. And if these are out of order and they don't work the way that they're supposed to, and you haven't gone in to verify this is your targets, this is your master, and this is your sub, when you go to use the macro, because again, indoor units, they can be in whatever order, it doesn't matter. It's all the same information. But for this is your targets, which you can see here, right? You got cooling, heating parallel, thermal on, restart standby, backup operation. It's got all your targets, your TE, your TC, your target condensing pressure, your evaporator pressure targets. These are all the things that it's using to ramp cooling and heating, compressor speeds. So you have to go down into this file here and you actually have to verify, is this my targets? And for this one it is. And then you'll say, okay, is this my master? Which we can go in and look at really quickly.
What do you mean by master and sub? If target is like what we want the data to be, what are master and sub?
So master and sub is the combination of units. So this is your outdoor unit number 1. We call this one the master unit. And then this one right here will be outdoor unit number 2, and this one's called the sub unit. With any combination of VRF systems or VRV systems, when there's more than one unit outside tied together with refrigerant piping between the two, one is going to be a master, basically a unit that's in control, and the other one's going to be a sub, which is the unit that takes orders from the master in order to run operation. What mode are we running in? What are we doing now? Are we restart standby? Can we communicate? All that good stuff like that. And so for here, we can see that this is the master unit because, right, O2, it's not O3. If I go over here and I open up O3, it should say the same thing. See here, O3 in the names. And actually, you'll find that when you export in CSV, it tells you a lot more than what you would expect. Shows me the number of outdoor units. It's actually only 2, there's not 3. Number of indoor units, 32. What system number it is, this is system 1. Recorded every 20 seconds. It's VRV3, heat recovery. And it doesn't have an AirNet address or centralized controller address.
So the R next to the VRV, next to the 3s means recovery?
What's that? The R?
On the VRV3?
Yes. Yep. But you can see the timestamp. This is all, I mean, this looks like the Matrix, right? You can say, well, yeah, I'll just go in here and I'll find the problem really quickly.
This is worse than service check. There's no graph.
Wait, let me just scroll over to see that one number. Did any of my, and you know, so and there's better versions of this that other people have made out in the field where it's like it's a macro too, but what it does is it goes through and it highlights high suction superheat, high discharge superheat, high subcooling, low sub. It changes the columns colors, and then it also filters them for what safeties turn on and off. Don't save. So I verified the orders are correct. So now what I'm going to go do is I'm going to go run a macro. Let's try one of the newer ones, version 9. So the more indoor units you have, the slower the macro is with trying to pull that information in. So this is what it looks like when I double click on it, right? It opens it up.
Where you open that?
You have to have Excel, but it's in the folder. This is the,
In the folder that you sent me with the pen drive?
it says Daikin macros, yep. You'll see here it has, I've got version 7, 8.1, 8.2, 8, 9. You'll notice that as the versions get newer, the higher the number, the newer the version. If the unit you have doesn't populate well in the macro, you can go to an older version, or you can go to a newer version.
The 9, you open
I did.
version 9? Okay.
Yeah. You'll notice here also it says right here at the bottom, this version is to be used with Service Checker 1.68 and Service Checker 4 version 1. We're way past that, so we're breaking the rules. What it'll ask you at the top is, it'll ask you, which I've already done mine already, it'll ask you to enable the macro sheet. You have to click enable. You're gonna find that Microsoft is actually gonna block it. You have to go and unblock it, which I can show you once we get Excel working on your laptops. And then from there, what we can do is we press the start button. So I just click that button, that's it. And when I click start, you'll see that my wheel is still spinning. It's creating the macro sheet right now. It's going through and it's saying pulling information, pulling information, pulling information, pulling information, and loading the sheets. Every time you see that little circle wheel click, it's pulled in a new sheet. And it's taking that information and it's laying it out in a nice little beautiful format. And then when it gets done, it's gonna ask me to save the macro sheet. Once I create it, it exists as one CSV file. And so what you can do from there is you can now call it whatever job name, job number, you have, and then from there you can actually send that to somebody. But remember, the more indoor units you have, the more data you have, and the longer the recording is, the longer it takes to create this, and also the bigger the file format is. So if you try to send it, I mean, it could be really big. Okay, here we go. Wow. That's what I want to hear, oohs and ahs.
Oh, look at that. Look at that.
All right, so this is what we're supposed to see. So you'll notice here a lot of cool stuff. Here's your outdoor unit 1. See how it says master in the top right? If I scroll over to the right, you'll see I have a sub 1. It has numbers. You'll notice that I don't have a triple module, so there's nothing in the triple module section.
There's only 2.
Correct. You'll notice here I'm on timestamp 2. It tells me the time here in the top right. And you'll notice here cooling is on, heating is off, parallels off, thermal on is on. So the unit is running. It's not an oil return, it's not an defrost. All this information is presented right here at the front. You'll also notice here too, and let me just zoom in because sometimes it's hard to see.
Okay.
Notice here all my step down controls for both outdoor unit 1 and outdoor unit 2 are all labeled here in the front. So if they get turned on, this will change to on instead of off. So you don't have to scroll for your protection controls. You'll also notice, see how everything is laid out? Look at that.
How does it know?
My
that
gosh.
it looks like that?
It's a spread. All it's doing is
It's literally saying, I know where all these numbers are supposed to go, and I put them on this picture.
Okay. So it might not look exactly like
No, it looks exactly like that. That's the refrigerant diagram for this module.
Wow. Now trying to find those sensors.
Okay, Bobby, that is wrong. Let me see.
Now trying to find those
It's that
sensors in an actual unit.
Well, so yes, okay, so do I still have to go to the service manual and see what number that is and then look at the breakdown diagram as to where it's pointing to? Because in the service manual it shows you that. There's breakaways and diagrams and stuff like that. So with this, right, I can see all the things. I can see that this four-way valve is on, right? This four-way valve is off. I can see that my subcooler is at 228 pulses. I can see my outdoor expansion valve is wide open, but I'm in cooling mode, so that's normal. It's supposed to be that way. I've got my 2 different temperatures here on my actual outdoor heat exchanger. I've got my gas temp entering my outdoor heat exchanger. See all this information that it gives us? It's a lot. And it's super helpful because now I don't have to guess, I just know, right? So let's say I want to go down here and I actually want to see them side by side. You can actually see all of these here. This is OU1, OU2. You can just see them together. I can see here that it gives you your inverter discharge superheat, 76 degrees and 79 degrees. It gives me my discharge superheat of my standard, 77 and 11. Well, the 11 probably is because it's off. And I can see that because over here I see compressor inverter 1 is on, inverter 2 is on, standard is on, but this one is off. There's nothing there. There's probably no compressor there, right? It's probably 2 modules. One is, the second module is just smaller, has 1 inverter compressor. And so again, it gives you all this information side by side so that you can see how the system operates over time. Now this is a newer one. I probably should have put this one on an older macro just because it doesn't populate it really well. But you can see here, I can see on both modules. And now watch this. So we have that now, and I can do this.
Is that your timestamp?
It's my timestamps. Which is why when you record every 20 seconds, you know, I want to punch you in the face.
Yeah, sweet.
Because now I have to click 4 times to get the numbers to change. But you see how the temperatures on my outdoor unit are changing?
Yeah.
Or not changing?
Changing slowly.
Temperatures are changing, valve pulses are changing, discharge temperatures off my compressors are changing, my ambient's staying the same because ambients don't really change drastically over time. I can also go here and I can change this number to target rate. Let's say I want to go to 250 and I hit enter. It'll change the timestamp on my macro, 500. What I'm telling it to do is to go to line item 500 in the data set.
Okay, because each line item is another recording.
Correct. Well, it's another 20 seconds timestamp.
20 second,
Correct.
yeah.
We're going down the list right now. Right, I start at the top and I go all the way down. So let's say I want to go to 1,000. Okay, let's say I want to go to 2,000. And you'll notice that eventually if I run out 9,000, there's nothing. Because I've gone past. I told it to reference line item 9,000 in the sheet. There's no information there because the recording stops. I've gone too far. So let's go to... Okay, so there's that one there, right? That's. Would you guys say this is helpful?
Yes. How does it know, so like that piping diagram, how does it know between like VRV3, VRV4, like the different models?
So it's listed in the actual service checker file. So if we go here.
So the macro just has all of them programmed.
Correct. You'll find that if you try to populate a macro that doesn't have the outdoor unit designation, that it'll say incompatible, unit or.
Gotcha. So that'll change. It'll match the model that you're working on.
Yeah, you see this right here?
Yeah. Okay.
That's in the CSV file.
Okay.
And so it says, hey,
Sees that.
it says, hey, what type are you? Okay, I'm going to use this layout, and this is where I put the data.
Got it.
And all of those are built into, which is why there's a bunch of different versions.
They just get updated.
They get updated with newer models, with new layouts.
So how about indoor units?
All right.
Are we jumping the gun?
No, you're good. But you can see how this is extremely useful, right?
Yeah.
You could look at it now. You can look at it in Service Checker, and you can say, "Hey, I really don't know what's going on, but I know this is really bad right here." So then I can go back and I can say, "What's the timestamp in the bottom right of Service Checker?" 7. Let's say it's 9:20 p.m. 9:20 a.m. Okay. Well, I know here this timestamp is 8:51 a.m. So I could keep going until I get to the 9:20, like I saw in the Service Checker data where things got really bad. Export the CSV file, import it into the macro, and go all the way to line item. Let's just say that's probably going to be 270. No, way too far. Okay. There we go, pretty close. And I could say, okay, let me play 5 minutes before, 5 minutes after. Let me just click through it. What happens? I see that the discharge superheat goes through the roof. What else is happening? And then I can look at this and I can say, okay, well, my suction superheat sucks. So does my discharge superheat. Like, what's my system subcooling? And on this, I could easily find it because I know where all my temperatures are. Where am I measuring system subcooling? From here to there, right? For system subcooling and cooling mode, I'm measuring right after the heat exchanger, right after it turns it to a liquid. So then I would take that, I would compare it to my saturation temperature of 100 degrees. I've got 1 degree subcooling. You see how quickly I can get there? Like, I don't have to go through the line items. But this is how you find the problems that you can't see in Service Checker, right? The unit keeps pumping itself down, like the problem that we had on that one unit, where it's like, okay, my suction pressure is 23 degree saturation temperature, right? Why? Why is it so low? Why is it freezing? Why is the whole line frozen? Right? I could go back and I could look at this, and you're going to find this in modules. You look in the outdoor module and you're like, man, that line's frozen, but that one's not. What the hell's going on? And you look at the data here, and I could say, okay, well, from this point, right, 97 degrees to 95 degrees here, like, what if this was 97 and this one was 20 degrees, right? Well, I'd either think it's the expansion valve in between these two or the filter that you see there. See that filter? This lets you correlate the two between it. Now I know when I go to that job, I'm not just checking the expansion valve, because the expansion valve checks good, and I don't have this, and I just say, well, the only thing between here and here is the expansion valve, and it checked out good, it ohmed out good, it's modulating, I pulled it off, it's rotating like it should, it's not loud, it's not noisy, the seals are good. There's nothing else it could be. This doesn't make any sense. Well, if I looked at this, I'd say, wait a minute, there's a refrigerant filter between these two places. So if the expansion valve is good, and I'm getting flow across it, or it's the same temperature, it's 20 degrees here, it's 20 degrees here, where does the 20 degrees go all the way back to? If I'm looking at the line here, right, and this is your expansion valve head, right? Yeah.
480, that's pulses, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah, max pulses. It's VRV3. So if I'm 20 degrees here, but yet on my Service Checker, it's 71, right? And this is my strainer. I'm looking at my data, and I see it's 20 degrees here, but it's 71 here. And I go here and I check my EEV, and okay, well, the EEV checks out good, modulates like it should, and I check the temperature here, and I check the temperature here, and guess what? It's also 20 degrees here. So where do I go next? Well, I gotta keep going this way until I find where it goes from 20 to 71. And when I check the temperatures across here, I'll notice this is 21, and this is 71. And so the strainer is plugged, right? It's pulling low pressure on this side, and it's stacking on this side, right? That's how we troubleshoot refrigeration problems in any refrigeration system. That's not just VRF. That's just basic air conditioning.
Yep.
And so for this, it lays it out in a format to where we can actually see what's on this side, what's on that side. Any drastic change. Now, 1 degree, 2 degree, 3 degree, I'm not concerned about it. Maybe the refrigerant's just moving really slow. I can check compressor speeds. My compressor speeds are low, then my flow is low, right? And I would expect some temperature drop. I'd expect 71 here, and then by the time it makes it over here, maybe it's 68 or something like that. Does that make sense, guys? Okay.
It's an acceptable temperature drop difference.
6 to 9 degrees. It depends upon the speed, right? Because if you think about an inverter compressor, right? This is my inverter compressor. My first speed on my inverter compressor is 15 RPS. Right? This is my lowest speed, typically on VRV. This is my highest speed, RPS, 144. And between here and here is about 120, 130, depending upon the size compressor, different speeds before it actually makes it to there. These are all the speeds. If you ever look in the service manual, this is what it looks like. It says inverter compressor speeds, here's step 1, right? First speed. And then it goes on the list of all the other speeds that it has until it gets to the max speed, which is 144. If I am, this is like playing bingo. You asked me what the temperature strainers are, what the temperature differential between strainers, right? So if I'm here on my compressor speed, then my temperature differential across strainers should be really low because the refrigerant is flowing at a high rate of speed. If I'm over here in this bingo square on compressor speeds, then my temperature differential across my strainers are going to be higher. Because again, if I'm over here, this is really slow. And if we know that this is a low, slow speed, then we know that the refrigerant is moving like a snail, right? Oh yeah. You guys didn't know I could draw snails, but I can.
Whoa.
Whoa, watch out, look at that.
Look at that.
This is what we call snail speed. Not really. But for that, I'm not even gonna try to draw a rabbit. Don't even ask me. So you've got your speeds. This is a diagram we have access to in our actual service manual. And in the service manual, it's going to show you all these different speeds. And so I know that, because I looked at my service manual, that if I'm at this speed here, let's say that that's 17 RPS. I know that my compressor is running really slow, which means that there might be some drastic temperature changes throughout the system because of that. But also it could be like, well, why is it so slow? If all my indoor units are on and all my valve pulses are open, why won't it speed up? And that's probably because it's hitting its targets. Remember, if we're in cooling mode, this is my TE. Anybody know what TE stands for?
Evaporator temperature?
Yes. Someone's been paying attention.
Yeah, I'm learning into those videos.
Real quick, what does the RPS stand for?
Revolutions per second.
For the compressor?
Correct.
Yes.
So we don't do RPM, we do RPS per second. You could do RPM.
RPS means nothing to me.
Yeah,
I
RPS.
just did the math. I'm like, I have no idea how fast this is going. It's 900 and like 8,600.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fast.
Yeah.
Like if you look at an angle grinder, I think it's like 6,000 RPMs, or maybe it's like 4,000 RPMs. So you think about an inverter compressor, max RPMs is like 7,800 RPMs. Yeah. So this is my actual TE. All right, so we'll do that. Let's do this over here.
Were those actual numbers, those RPS? Like, is that 144 the max?
It depends upon the compressor size and the voltage.
But pretty close.
Pretty close, yeah. Yeah, and even in like the smaller single phase VRV, 144. Usually it's 105, right? And you'll see this too. You'll see the same size compressor model number used across different models, and you'll say that, okay, hey, a 120 model can go up to here, but a 96 model stops here. And you're going to see that what happens is the inverter board is programmed differently to not let the same size compressor go past this speed. Because that would be the speed of a 10-ton, not an 8-ton. And it's only in an 8-ton. It's the same compressor. It just doesn't let it go higher than that speed. This is your max speed. It's a governor, basically.
Yeah, I was thinking that instead on the side for the condenser that we have there, it's different size. It's the same size cabinet,
Yeah.
but it's different tone.
Okay, so I have my saturation line here. I want to hear from the newer guys on the team here. If this is my line of saturation for refrigerant, what is this point here? If I'm below my saturation line.
Cooling, subcool.
Subcool, yes. So this is subcooling, which means it's a what? What state is it in?
Liquid.
Liquid. What about this one up here?
I wouldn't figure that out.
You wouldn't have figured that out?
No,
It's super cool.
not like the point below.
Oh, super cool.
Oh my god.
And what is it? What state is it in?
Vapor. So,
This is my
saturation line.
saturation line, which is also my state change line.
Vapor and liquid.
If it goes below this line, it becomes a liquid. If it goes above this line, it becomes a vapor. This is the basis of how we make refrigeration do what it does. This is the magic right here, right? This line is a temperature. I'm really gonna blow your minds today. Let's say this is 32 degrees.
Well, that is your temperature, the HVAC coil temperature, the saturation temperature.
This is just our saturation temperature, 32 degrees. Let's,
The TE.
well, let's not get complicated with names yet for that. We're just talking about saturation.
Okay.
This is my saturation
Okay.
Of the refrigerant itself.
of the refrigerant at this pressure, right?
Okay.
The refrigerant at this pressure in the system is this.
Yeah, is the temperature that the refrigerant change the state.
Well, it tells you what the state it's in, actually. It's a number that's going to tell, well, so yes, 32, yes. If it goes below, it changes states to a liquid. If it goes above, it is the line of change of state,
Like you
yes.
say, it's the basic AC refrigeration system.
Yes, and let's pull this up, only because I saw it earlier. You guys seen this before?
Yeah.
This is a PT chart,
Charge, yeah.
pressure temperature chart, right?
Yeah.
This is what we call the saturation chart.
Yeah.
This chart tells us what this line is at. So at 32 degrees, what's my pressure for 410A?
46.
No,
200 and something.
Oh, I'm
90.
I'm looking at 0.32.
No,
90.
this is 90 degrees Fahrenheit. So what you're looking for is you're looking for Fahrenheit on this side of 32. 101.5. You're going to notice in VRF we stopped talking about pressures because there's just too many temperatures to talk about. And let's be honest, it doesn't really matter. The system converts all of these things for us with our TE, right? So this is 105 pressure, not degrees, sorry. PSIG, or PSI. 32 degrees at 101 PSI, okay, right? So if my temperature is what would this be up here?
50.
Sure, 50, I love that number. How superheated is that vapor? This is 50 degrees.
Find it there.
18?
Is it 18?
Yeah.
Exactly. So the distance between here all the way down to here is 18. That's how we find superheat, right? Now give me a subcooled number below 32. 0, sure, because that's an easy number, right? The measurement between here and all the way down to this point here
32.
is 32 degrees of subcooling. You see how we measure that, guys? This is basic refrigeration. So you have your saturation temperature. Now, you don't have to memorize this chart because Service Checker actually gives you these numbers. Service Checker looks at what the pressure is on the suction line, and it says, here is your actual evaporation temperature. It's basically it's your saturation temperature.
It is.
It's saying my suction line and my suction pressure is 101, so your actual is 32 degrees. And the same thing for the other side when we're talking about our discharge side of the compressor, right? When we're talking about our hot gas side of the compressor, it takes that pressure and it converts it to a temperature and you get your TC, which is basically condensing temp. It's spelled backwards. You can thank the Japanese for that one. So all of this to explain this. So we know subcooling, we know superheat, these are basic things, but the saturation line is the most important part because we know what a saturation line is, right? We know the saturation temperature is. That's exactly what we're using over here. So when we're talking about actual TE, this is my actual saturation temperature of my suction line. And so you're gonna notice here that I have a target TE, right? So the system says in cooling mode, right, because we're in cooling mode, it says I want to be at 32 degrees. Let's say the demand is really high and it wants to ramp those compressors up because we're at low speed, right? And it says, okay, my target is 32 degrees. What is it actually right now? Let's say it's 54 degrees. So what happens to my compressor? Yeah, it says J7. Speeds up. We go up on the bingo chart. And so now it doesn't just jump to that speed. What it does is it does this. It goes here and then here and then here and then here. Remember, inverter systems, right, are a slow ramp. It takes time. This could be 15 to 20 minutes before it finally arrives here. That's the natural progression of how inverters work. They don't go from here and then slam it into 6th gear. Right? That's how we break stuff. So what does that look like on Service Checker? Well, that looks like this. As we start playing bingo and we start going through the spaces of progression here, what happens to my temperature? It starts to fall, right? Because if my compressor goes up and I'm compressing more refrigerant, what happens? It starts to pull more vapor, and as it pulls more vapor, the suction pressure goes down. When the suction pressure goes down, then my actual saturation temperature also follows suit, because pressure correlates to temperature. So my suction pressure goes down and my actual saturation temperature goes down. And so what is it trying to do? It's trying to get my actual saturation temperature to match my target. And so what happens when it hits this point here, right? It says, finally, I've made it. And let's say it landed here. And it says, okay, I'm here, I'm running. Okay, and it stays at that speed. But then let's say one of the indoor units turn off because they satisfy temperature. So you get a close, right? When it closes, what happens when it closes? You get a line right here, right? And refrigerant is just flowing by, going in this direction, and then it just completely shuts. And what happens to all that refrigerant? Well, it gets sucked out of the backside of that.
Stays stuck in there.
And then it's empty, right? There's no more refrigerant coming through this anymore. And so because there's no more refrigerant flowing through that anymore, what happens? Our pressure continues to fall now. Because the suction stays the same, but now we have less refrigerant coming back. And so what happens when you get less refrigerant coming back? Well, now it overshoots its target, and it says, wait a minute, this is not good. I've gone past my target. And let's say that this is 26 degrees. And it says, well, that's not good. And so what does it do? It ramps down. There we go. And it says, you know what? This is way too fast now for what is being demanded of me. Let me slow down. So it takes a step back 2 steps. And so then what happens again? It goes back up, right? These are, if you were to plot compressor speeds, right, on this chart, this is exactly what Service Checker looks like. It would look like this, right? It would be slower, and then it would be ramping up, and then it would hit the peak, and then it would slow down some, right? This is my compressor speeds. This is low RPS, this is 15, right? And let's say that this is 84. And when it hits here and it overshoots its target, it sees it here. So it wouldn't go up, it would probably just go sideways, like this. And then it says, oh no, I overshot my target, slow down. So then it slows down, and it goes down to, let's say, 78 RPS. And then it levels out, and it says, okay, let's stay at that speed. And then what happens? A bunch of indoor units turn on. So what do you get? You get more refrigerant that comes back down the suction line. So what happens to my actual TE? The pressure goes up. So if the pressure goes up, what goes up too? The saturation temperature. And so it goes up. And so then what does the compressor say? The compressor says, oh crap. So it goes up, right? So it says, oh no, this isn't working.
I'm floating.
So it says, okay, let's crank this thing up, right? And so it goes up a couple more speeds, higher than what it was before. And what you're going to find is then, okay, so then it starts to fall at this speed. It goes and it goes and it goes. And then you're going to find, oh no, we went past our line again. And so then it slows down. And then it goes and it realizes it's too slow. And then it goes up a little bit more. And then it levels out, right? This is what Service Checker data looks like. We can easily populate this number here and see how it dips on this line here. We can easily populate compressor speeds and see how they correlate to each other. I wish I had one more color. Because again, Service Checker is looking at this, right? It's looking at the correlation between these things. They're connected over time, right? We can see that the cause and effect here. We see the compressor speed changes, right? And how they affect our saturation temperature of our refrigerant on our suction line. And ideally, in a perfect world, when the systems run for a while, this is why I tell you guys you have to give it 30 minutes, right? Because you got to get out of this first until the demand levels out and you actually get refrigerant flowing and you get to a point where they actually start to touch, or they dance a little bit on top of each other until it levels out and you get nice level numbers. Service Checker data that you'll instantly see there's a problem is where it looks like a heart rate monitor, where this line is always like this. And the compressor speeds do the same thing. Compressor speeds are up, down, up, down, up, down, fast, slow, fast, slow, fast, slow, right? Those are problems within the system. There's supposed to be small, gradual changes when the charge is correct, when there's no restrictions in the system, when all the valves are doing what they're supposed to be doing, and they're modulating the way that they're supposed to. Yeah. This is cooling only. We take the same exact thing, and instead of doing target TE and these cold temperatures, we do, what do you think? And the line's reversed because it's different, but we do TC. This is TC, and this is target TC. This is what we call heating mode. You can't do both at the same time. It can't say, okay, I'm fast. No, wait, I'm slow. Wait, no, hold on. Which one am I doing? This is heat mode. H-E-A-T. There we go. In a heat mode, it's doing the same thing, except for the TC is below the graph because it's trying to get up to the temperature set point. For remember, suction line, we're trying to get down to. For our actual condensing temp, we're trying to get up to. We're trying to generate heat. We're trying to get up to that saturation temperature. And that saturation temperature target's usually, 110 degrees. But again, these are all things that we can measure and look at. Am I hitting targets? And when I hit targets, what happens? If it maintains targets, but all my valve pulses are open and my superheats suck, they're 30 degrees, there's a problem. Hitting targets aren't the end-all be-all, but they are the basic mode of control. And if I look at my targets and it's erratic, then I say, okay, what's up with that? Why am I open, close, open, close, open, close? And you might find that it's going into high pressure step down and then high discharge temperature step down and then coming out and then going in and then coming out. What controls compressor speeds erratically is also safety controls. It'll say, hey, here's how it works. Discharge temperature on the compressor gets really high, 227 degrees. And let's say it's down here at this compressor speed. The unit goes, whoa, 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 whoa. Go back all the way to here and stay here. You can't go above this line, right? Stop. And if the discharge temperature doesn't come down after a minute, 2 minutes, then it says, okay, go back some more. Come back here to this line. Don't go above that line. And then the discharge temperature will start to fall because it's less refrigerant, it's lower speeds, less friction, and it goes down. And then it'll level off. And it'll say, okay, it came down enough, I'm happy now, it's at 174. And so then it'll say, okay, turn off high temp step down, inverter discharge step down. So then the safety controls go away. And now it says, okay, you can ramp up if you want to. And so it's going to try to manage targets again. But then you'll notice that when it gets back up to here, it goes back into step down again because it's 227. And so it says, well, okay, go back, slow down. And if it does that 3 times in an hour and it can't correct it, you get an F4 or an F3. You get a high discharge temp error, right, on the system. This is all the things that it's doing all the time. So when we're looking at service checker data and we see some really crazy stuff, what do your safety controls look like? Are they dancing on and off? Are they turning on and off? Is my temperatures crazy high? These are just the basic modes of control. This is the sheet that it's working off of. This is how it uses those numbers and how we have access to those numbers. And then that's the basic mode of control for controlling compressor speeds. So it's not only looking at what speed am I at, but also what is my discharge temperature, what are my speeds actually at, how do they correlate to each other, all those things together. But all that comes back to saturation temperature. For evaporation line, for your evaporator line, for your condensing line, right? Your condensing temp, your discharge line. So you have to decide in the system, is it connected to my suction line? Is it a vapor? Or is it a liquid? And you're going to find in certain parts of the system where it doesn't make any sense. And you look at it and you're like, well, this is my liquid line, but it's 4 degrees. That's a lot of subcooling. But then they have to ask your question is, okay, what if it was a vapor? Let me follow it all the way back where it came from. Okay, was it supposed to turn to a liquid at some point? What if it never turned to a liquid? Right? Or what if it barely turned to a liquid and then turned immediately back into a vapor? Right? What would that look like? Okay, it turns out that that's actually not a 90-degree subcooling. Because those temperatures are misleading. Just because you see a temperature on the liquid line and you instantly think 4 degrees, you kind of have to get away from the mindset, well, it's a liquid line, so it's liquid. That's a lot of subcooling. No, you have to question everything you know and say, which is it? Where does it fall on this? Is it a liquid or is it a vapor? It's like a game show. And so then I follow it back. Where it was a vapor, was supposed to become a liquid. Did it ever become a liquid? Well, no, it's a 1 degree subcooling across my indoor units in heating. Well, if it barely became a liquid right here, right? It was like, that's me. And then it's coming back to my outdoor unit. Let's say it's leaving my fan coils at, this is a good one, hold on. If it's leaving my fan coils at, let's say, give me a number. We're in heating mode, right? Let's just do this really quick. So what I like to do is I like to follow the path of compression. This is your basic layout, right? This is your IDU. This is your ODU heat exchangers, right? These are heat exchangers. HX is the abbreviation for heat exchangers you're going to see in Service Checker. This is my compressor. Okay? This is it. And I didn't put any expansion valves on here just for the sake of this argument. Sure, we'll add a EEV, EEV. Okay, give me a discharge temperature. Just pick a temperature.
180.
180, okay, I like it. 80 degrees. Obviously, this is not an accurate representation. This would go to a four-way valve, then out of the four-way valve, back into the dual gas line over to one of the indoor units. But for the basic theory of refrigeration, when we're thinking about troubleshooting problems, sometimes we have to just do 1 and 1. Find a really bad one, find the outdoor unit, and just troubleshoot it. So it's 180 degrees in heating mode, right? We know we're in heating mode because we're sending it to the indoor unit. Okay? And by the time it makes it to the indoor unit, it's what? Let's.
75. What? You lost? Papi.
So that would raise what? A question, right?
Papi, you lost a lot there.
Well, that's hot, is it not?
Papi, but
When we break down VRF and VRV to the very basic bare bones of it, right? This is what it is. It's a compressor, it's a heat exchanger, it's an expansion valve, it's an expansion valve, it's another heat exchanger. That's it. That's literally all we need, right? Sure, we need a fan motor here and over there. Let's not add a complexity to it. Let's just talk refrigeration. Remove all the electrical components, remove all the other fluff that we have in VRF. This is basic refrigeration. 180 degree discharge temp, and by the time I make it to my indoor unit, I'm 132.
That's coming out of the indoor unit, right?
No, that's coming into the indoor unit. This is hot gas going onto the actual suction line, right? It's in heating mode. In a heat pump, right? It reverses the flow of refrigerant. We have hot gas coming down our suction line now to our evaporator. And it's 132 degrees. And like Ricardo said, where did the heat go?
You're not insulated.
Papi, that's why they need more insulation or something like that, but we are losing a lot.
We got water in the chase.
Yeah.
That is a point.
They ran it through the freezer, right? It's going through. Okay, so this brings up a concern, right? Okay, wait a minute, hold on a second.
No.
What is in between?
I'm like, okay, wait a minute, this doesn't look good. I lost 48 degrees, right? Well, that's a problem, right? That's no good, right? Not good. Okay, so what about coming out of my indoor unit?
Well, you can lose like a 20.
So let's say that this is 109 degrees. Now I could say, wow, it's really subcooled the crap out of that, right?
Well, but that is good.
Well, but how do I know this is subcooled?
Because it's different, the temperature is different.
So sure, it's less.
Yeah.
But
what's our saturation?
thank you. Hallelujah. Preach it. So then I would look at here, and there's, okay, let's add a pressure sensor, okay? And it says that my saturation temperature is this. It's reading pressure right there, and it says, hey, my saturation temperature on my discharge line is 108.5. So I'll ask you again. You said there's a lot of heat exchange here. Wow, look at the heat. But if my temp leaving my heat exchanger is 109 and my saturation temperature is 108.5, how much subcooling did I create?
1.
Not even.
Oh, 5, yeah, 0.5.
0.5 degrees. Man, that's a lot of subcooling. Look at it go. Okay? But you can see how, if I don't have this number and I look at this temperature exchange, I think, wow, this thing is really efficient. I'm generating a lot of heat. But here you can see I'm only generating 0.5 subcooling, right? That is a really low quality liquid. It's barely a liquid. So let's keep going. So we make it back to my outdoor unit. What do you think we get to?
105.
Whoa.
Yeah.
What about this?
No.
Oh, no. No, it's not good.
Papi, that set line is crappy.
It's going through a swimming pool at the bottom. Walking in the freezer on the top.
Who installed that?
We installed that. No, just kidding.
Papi, don't say that, please.
It's 15 degrees.
Yeah.
Man, there must be like this giant subcooler between here and here, right?
It's our outdoor.
So then you start asking the questions of, okay, well, that's a huge temperature drop, right? That's a huge temperature drop. So if we're losing a ton of heat between here and here, maybe it's just really subcooled, right? You're just going through a bunch of water, right? They ran the line set through a lake by accident. It happens. You then ask the question, okay, what are my, because we didn't ask it on this one, right? What are my valve pulses? No one caught that, right? No. So between here, let's say that our valve pulses here are wide open, 2,000 pulses. What do we know about 2,000 pulses? We know it's 100% open. Mm-hmm. What do we know about being fully open on an expansion valve?
Maybe lack of gas.
Could be a lack of gas, but what do we know the bare bones of expansion valves? They're designed to do what? Meter refrigerant.
Yeah.
When a valve is wide open, is it metering refrigerant?
No.
I mean, maybe a little, just because there's stuff in the way. It's colliding with something. But no, the answer is no. We're not metering any refrigerant. It's wide open. It's not getting enough refrigerant, right? So that's at 2,000 pulses. And then what about this one here? What do you think?
Wait. So that happened there in Valdosta with the 3-room that we have the valve full open. So we don't have enough refrigerant reaching those rooms, right? Right?
Well, it depends.
No, well, that was the point, no, but that was the day that we had the filter.
So the problem with VRF is this. I understand what you're saying, and I'm not going to disagree with you, but here's the thing. The problem with VRF is we have to let go of the construct that one thing is always one thing, right? Or that it's always the same problem. People, this is where the technicians make a mistake in their learning journey here, right? It's a mystical journey. They see this, and they automatically say it equals this, right? People see 2,000 pulses, and they go this. I've been doing this for 30 years, son, and this is what it is, low charge. And the problem is that they've already told their brains, they know what the problem is, and it's this. And the issue with that is we're basically saying every time it's at this, it's always that. And that's not true. This only means that I am not metering refrigerant, full stop. That's it. I'm not metering any refrigerant at that. It doesn't mean that it's low on charge. It doesn't mean that the system is low on gas. It means that this valve by itself, where it's at, what it's doing is not metering refrigerant, and that's it. And that's the problem with VRF. Guys see that and they say, okay, we already solved it. It's low charge.
We showed that. We showed that. But we have 3 rooms exactly like that.
So let's keep rolling with it, right? 20 pulses.
We have 2,000 here and 20 there.
Almost close.
It's pinched off, right? Because then now you're going to ask the question, okay, what's 15 degrees there? What is it after my expansion valve? Negative 20 degrees. And then you're going to ask, okay, well, what is it leaving my outdoor heat exchanger? Let's see here, -10. You see how we're getting deeper and deeper in the weeds and you guys feel less and less like you can actually breathe? It's a lot. But you see how even if I break it down to 1-to-1, it still gets really complicated. So we know that we lose a ton of heat here, right? We'll come over here, we'll create poor subcooling, okay? Right, 0.5 degrees. And then we come across here and we come all the way over here and we go through the expansion valve at 20 pulses, right? And then we come out at -20 degrees, and then we come out at -10 degrees across the heat exchanger. So we are picking up heat, right, from the outdoor air. We are superheating it from -20 to -10. We're picking up 10 degrees. But that's what it's looking for. It's looking for 10 degrees. If it was 20 degrees, this valve would open up more. If it was 3 degrees, it would try to close more. It can't close more, but it'll try to close more. If it closes more, it shuts. And then it's open, close, open, close, open, close. But this tells me, right, if I'm pinched off here, then the last thing we have to know about all of this is what? What did we just talk about and cover? The big bingo chart. Compressor speeds. There we go. Anybody want to take a guess what the compressor speeds are?
Nothing, really low.
No.
Yes. You can almost figure it out yourself, right? You know if this looks like this and this looks like that and that looks like that. What do we know about this giant temperature exchange here? It's just refrigerant moving really slow. Oh,
Yeah, because
now you got it.
we got, the saturation is on the same.
So they lose a lot, but the refrigerant is moving really slow.
Yes.
And that is why they lose in the liquid and lose in the vapor too.
Yep. Now, it wouldn't actually be that, I kind of tricked you guys with this number just because I wanted to get you guys to think, but this number would probably be somewhere closer to, 10 degrees, right? Or maybe even 12, because again, what's happening is what are we doing over here? We're basically, it's like this. It's a giant jug. Oh, look at that. Look at these drawings, man. He's just so good. Right? If this line was connected here on this side of the system, it's full of liquid. We're stacking liquid in the outdoor unit. Now remember, there is a liquid receiver at the outdoor section, right? Right before the outdoor expansion valve. It's designed to do what? It's designed to stack liquid, right? This unit is at 15 RPS. And why is it at 15 RPS? Is it because the unit sucks at cooling? Because it reached the target. Thank you, Larry. That's target TC. And guess what? It hit it. That's it. Target TC and actual TC, they match. They're shaking hands.
And that is why
They're like, welcome, thank you.
was wide open.
Yeah, because this indoor unit only cares about what? Heating. It says, I want to heat the space. Well, guess what? My space temperature is 55 right now. My God, this thing is freezing in here. And the reason it's freezing is because, again, it's not getting a whole lot of heat. And what you're going to find is this is just the system turning on. And so what happens is this, it gets worse. How could it get any worse?
So the point is, the system, they reach the target that they was the setup in the board, right?
Yep. That's it.
So
Compressor turns on at 15 RPS and it hits its target.
Yeah, so the problem is we need to move the setup for the target.
No.
Why not? We need to ramp it up the compressor for finally find.
But why do you need to ramp up the compressor? It hit its target.
The compressor is doing what it's supposed to do.
Yeah,
That's it. But so the compressor's at low speed, hitting its target.
That is fine.
However, let's say we go 10 minutes down the road, because that's all it takes, 10 minutes, okay? And we go from 180 degrees, right? You've seen this story before, have you, Dalton? This goes to 220.
That is why he's so quiet.
Dalton worked with me for 4 or 5 years out in the field.
I know.
And so he knows the story all too well. So what happens? What happens? 220 degrees now. Was 180, now it's 220. Why is it so hot?
Compressor speed's picked up.
Yeah.
Nope, compressor speed hasn't changed.
Say that again, what I missed?
Okay, We went from 180.
Or valve?
Oh, to 220.
We went to one. Here, let me help you out. We went 180 to 220. Right? We're changing timestamps. We want to 10 minutes ahead.
Okay.
We went from 180 to 220. We went from 132 to 105. We went from, what is this, 10, what was it, I said 109? 109 to 74.
Like a refrigerant?
No. So the discharge line's getting crazy hot. Why do compressors get hot? What do compressors need to stay cool?
Refrigerant?
Not liquid. They don't like liquid.
They go real fast when they turn off.
Or refrigerant, right?
What keeps the compressor cool?
Oil.
They're gas cooled, are they not?
The speed, not too much friction.
Refrigerant.
They need two things to stay cool:
Oil and refrigerant.
oil and refrigerant. If we're running at low speed and my valve is pinched off, how much refrigerant is it getting back? None. Pretty much nothing. Right? So what happens to my discharge temp? It goes up.
More friction.
More friction,
There's more friction.
but you don't have oil.
But if it runs this way long enough, I'm not getting any oil back. All the oil's coming out of here, right? To here. And then it's stopping and it's not going any further. What do we need to get oil back? We need flow. We need refrigerant volume and velocity. We're not getting either one right now. We have a ton of volume, but it's not going anywhere. So my discharge temperature goes from 180 to 220. And then what happens as we go inside? So this goes up, right? She's going to the moon. It's a SpaceX program. But this went down. So what's happening is this, right? We filled up our liquid receiver, and now what's happening?
Backing up.
It's bagging up.
So this is our problem that
We're now pumping everything to one side of the system, and it's just literally stacking. Because my temperature hasn't changed. Sorry, my compressor speed hasn't changed. I'm hitting my target temp, 110, right? And so my saturation temperature hasn't changed. Well, it has because we gave it a target of 110. It's 110. This isn't going any faster. This hasn't changed. So what starts to happen? It starts to stack liquid on one side of the system. And that liquid stacks so much to where it starts to fill the indoor unit. Then it comes down the actual gas discharge line. Because now look, at 105 degrees, where do I fall on this chart? And if this helps you guys, then do this, right? Take your paper and draw a line. And this line is what? 110 degrees.
That is your target.
Saturation.
So before I was 130, what? 130, 132?
Yeah.
Right? So I was up here. So there's a vapor. But now, 10 minutes later, where am I at now? So where am I now? I'm a liquid.
the liquids come all the way back.
It's made it back to the hot gas line. It's not hot gas anymore. This might as well be a heat exchanger. So you see how all I do is draw a line and draw a number. 110, here's my line. And I'm looking at all this data in the system, whether it's on the macro or in the service checker, and I'm saying, where does it fall on my saturation line over time? And I can give it timestamps if I want to, right? This is 7:30 p.m. This is 7:40 p.m. Because this data looks crazy, and you see it and you're like, well, it's lack of refrigerant. But we're just missing one last number, right? This is how it progresses over time. This is what it looks like. Again, it's hitting its target. It's at 15 RPS, chugging along. If it goes any faster, it goes into high pressure step down, right? It's just got too much, too high pressure, right? Try not to give away the answer here. What's the last thing we need to know about this before we condemn it? Say they need a new system. It's not gonna fix it.
Is that
Well, we could do suction superheat, we could do discharge superheat, and those will tell us, lack of oil. But I can already tell where this is going. This will go to 220, it'll go to 240, it'll go to 247, then it'll go inverter step down. But there's no more lower speed, so it just stays where it's at.
It goes into
and then it blows the terminals out of the compressor. We can see that I've got what on my hot gas line? I've got liquid. I know that I'm not metering refrigerant here, and I'm pinched all the way closed here. What do we know about pinched all the way closed? If I have a garden hose with a water nozzle on the end, okay, and I turn the water on, and I just barely crack the line open. And when I barely crack the line open, and it shoots out the end of it, and it like, you know, peels the paint off my car. So I'm washing my car, because it's pollen season. Would you say that the pressure on that water hose is probably too high?
Yes.
I got a lot of water, a lot of pressure on the backside, right?
Yes.
So if I'm pinched off closed here, and I still have a good superheat across here, or maybe too much, let's say this gets worse. Let's say this is -20.
Oh my gosh.
We got no superheat. Ricardo's like, please, make it stop. Somebody save this system.
You're killing me.
So I guess the fans are not running?
No, the fans are running full speed. This is at step 8. She's doing everything she can to do what she needs to.
Why is no...
It's pinched off closed because why? What do I have on the back side of this valve? I have liquid. But would you say I have too much liquid?
Yes.
Yes. And the way we know that is because if I take 15 degrees, right, and I plot it on my chart, where does it go?
Oh, yeah. Really far away.
So if I'm measuring subcooling, how much subcooling do I have?
Too much. 95.
Would you say 95 is a high number?
So it's full in the water.
So what's wrong with this system? Besides the fact that they didn't use us to install it.
Overcharge?
Overcharged. Let's say the unit nameplate is 28.4 pounds, right? And let's say it's, you know, it's just one module. But then they don't know how to do math, and so they did, you know, times some random number, 4. And a system that probably should have had, let's say, 32 pounds has got 100 pounds. Will it hold 100 pounds?
Yeah.
Yeah. That liquid receiver on most of these units can hold 60 pounds alone.
Oh yeah, when it fills up, there's nowhere to put it, and then it stacks.
So liquid is the only state, is the state where.
It's never not a liquid. It's always a liquid. Do you see how we got to the diagnosis on this one?
Thank you.
So we look at this, and at first it's okay, right? Maybe these valve pulses were at 200, and then it floods, and so it says, okay, well I'm flooding, so let me shut my pulses down lower. So it goes to 180, it goes to 140, it goes to 120, it's still flooding. It goes, okay, 20 pulses, and then the superheat gets better. But what happens when the superheat gets better? Well, guess what? It starts to stack liquid on this side, and it gets stacks and 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 makes it all the way back to the compressor. This is severe overcharge, right? In a slight overcharge scenario, you'll kind of see the same things, and it'll be less than this, and it's a little bit more difficult to determine, but this is severe overcharge. This is where they're like, oh, the unit never worked right from day one. And so you'll look at the data and you'll say, well, I looked at all of this and I plotted it on the nice, pretty drawing that Roman made, and I determined that it is really, really overcharged. And how do I know that? Because I did the subcooling math over here, and I found out that it's actually 95 degrees of subcooling. That's not a good thing. 95 is a big number when it comes to subcooling. And I also know that because my compressor's overheating, it's barely running, and so again, at low speed, it's hitting its target. This tells me the system is overcharged. And it's overcharged not because I looked at my pulses and said 2,000 pulses. The problem is, when they had heating issues on the system because it was slightly overcharged, another company came out and they put their service checker on it, or their Bluetooth tool, or whatever they had, and they saw it was at 2,000 pulses, and so they added gas to it. And they said, you know what, they probably just forgot to put in the outdoor unit charge when they changed the compressor. And then another company came out again and they said, well, it's still at 2,000 pulses, maybe it's got a leak. Let's just gas it up for now to get them some more cooling
Oh my God.
or some more heating.
The second one coming and they add more refrigerant.
That's what it's got to be. Everybody knows 2,000 pulses means a lack of refrigerant, duh. And so they add another 28 pounds to it.
Oh my.
Sounds like there's a story behind it.
Stupid question.
This is 80% of all stories of VRF. What's up?
I got a dumb question.
Okay.
Why does that why does that expansion valve above the indoor unit stay 2,000 when it's got liquid going everywhere? Shouldn't it try to?
The only thing that this unit cares about is heating the space.
I see, so that,
Yeah.
This is all it cares about.
The thermostat was set up in something that
It goes like this. It goes, what is my space temperature?
Yeah.
I need more heat.
Uh-huh.
And so then it looks at its temperatures and it says 105 in, 74 out. I just need to open up more so I can get more heat from the outdoor unit. Because it's got it. What a snob. It's holding on to all that heat. Remember, these systems are smart, but when you do things like this to them, this is what kills compressors. This is what pisses people off. This is what you have 5 technicians go out and look at it, but they never step back to look at the basic refrigeration of it to determine where does it fall on my saturation chart? Where does it fall within my system and what does it look like? Is it a vapor or is it a liquid? And so then we say your system's overcharged. There's no way to actually determine the total charge of it. We could pull it out in increments, but it is, remember, 410A, it's a blended gas, so there's no telling what mixture we leave in and what percentage is left. We recommend we just recalculate the line set length, right? Do the right math, and then add the right charge after we pull the charge. And we pull the charge, and they only sent you to the job. Maya sent you to the job with a 50-pound recovery tank. You find out you fill it in 5 minutes, and the system still's got a ton of gas in it. So you go get another tank, and you come back and you fill that one, and still got more gas in it. So you go get a third tank, and then you fill that one maybe a quarter of the way, and then you realize, okay, the system is only supposed to have 32 pounds in it per my calculation. I pulled 110.
Nothing more.
But this technology is junk, right? These things happen. I've run across probably 10 systems like this out in the field, where they've had 3 mechanical contractors look at it, nobody can get it running, nobody can get it to work. It hasn't lost any compressors because it doesn't barely run. Insufficient heating, insufficient cooling. Now, obviously it wasn't 55 inside. We don't get weather like that here. But you can see how I put the pieces together in the refrigeration cycle. And if this helps and you guys learn how to use this like this, you can either do it through the macros or you can draw it on a piece of paper, and you always follow the path of compression, right? It comes in here, it goes over here, it comes back, and it does this in a continuous loop. So now what I do is I find out where is it a liquid and where is it a vapor. Is it supposed to be a liquid there? No, it's not supposed to be a liquid here. It's supposed to be a vapor, right? Is it supposed to be a liquid on my suction line? No, it's supposed to be a vapor. And I go, okay, well, why? Why is it that way? Well, it's pinched off closed is doing everything it can to keep it from getting back to the compressor. Maybe they've got the outdoor unit wrapped in a tarp. And I'm not getting any air across my outdoor unit. There's a lot of other mitigating factors that can take place. Maybe the filters inside are completely plugged, right? Now, not for this case, because again, we're not getting enough heat, but you can see how there's other factors of diving deeper in this layer to build out this puzzle, to build these things out to where we get a solid understanding of how this system is operating to determine, is it overcharged, is it undercharged? And we can always go back to the 3 pillars that I teach, which is discharge superheat, suction superheat, and subcooling. And the subcooling part is dependent upon what mode it's in, and because remember, liquid is flowing which way? To the outdoor unit, right?
So what would our numbers look like? What would our numbers look like
Correct.
in those 3 pillars? We'd have 95, subcool.
Yeah, so your superheat, obviously, coming back to my compressor, let's say that on the low side here, let's say that it's negative 20.
Okay.
So we have a 0-degree suction superheat.
Yep.
Okay, then we go to discharge superheat, 110 over 220. We know that that's a 110-degree discharge superheat. Okay, and then we know over here 15 degrees over top of 105 is 95. 95 degrees subcooling. So 0 degree suction superheat, 110 discharge superheat, high subcooling. The reason it's at 0 suction superheat is because, again, there's so much liquid that it can't meter anymore.
Otherwise it floods.
Otherwise it floods, or it closes,
Yeah.
and then it pulls itself into a vacuum and goes off on low pressure. And so I'm getting liquid back because it's just been running this way for so long. My discharge superheat is 110. That's this temperature, discharge temperature, subtracted from your saturation temperature, which gives me my discharge superheat. Anything over 72 degrees is crazy high. And that's because I'm not getting either one of two things. Well, both in this situation. I'm not getting enough vapor refrigerant back, or I'm not getting oil back. And for this, I'm not getting either. There's oil all up in these lines because it's not moving. So this only is going to get hotter and hotter and hotter, and it'll hit a peak where this unit shuts down. Not because of discharge superheat, it shuts down because of high discharge temp. Or the compressor starts to overamp. Or the compressor seizes because it overheats. And then 95 degree subcooling, remember, it's always important to remember which way the liquid is flowing in the system, whether it's going this way in cooling or this way in heating. And then I'm always measuring it, usually after it's supposed to change states, right? So for heating, I might measure subcooling here. But then I also measure it as it enters my outdoor unit, which is 15 degrees. Remember also, big temperature splits between here and here is always a big problem. Always. And so for this situation, 0 degree suction superheat, 110 degree discharge superheat, and 95 degree subcooling tells me the system is overcharged. Now, if it was less than 100 pounds, then let's say that my suction superheat was actually higher than that, right? So if it's not extreme overcharge, let's just say it's a slight overcharged. All of these numbers paint a specific picture. This means not enough vapor, not enough oil. This means not enough vapor. Right? We know that. High superheat, not enough vapor. High discharge superheat, not enough vapor, not enough oil. High subcooling, wait a minute. This is not making it back to here. Or restriction. This would be restriction. If my valve is at 20 pulses, right, and it thinks that it's at 480 because it's stuck closed and it's failed, there's my restriction. But you can see you wouldn't have this be 30 if it was overcharged, right? Because remember, the system is running to maintain what? 9 degree suction superheat. So if it's hitting suction superheat and it's hitting targets, then it thinks it's good. But then when you do the subcooling and you realize you're not getting enough vapor back, or let's say you're not getting enough oil because now it's metering everything really, really extreme. Nothing's moving quickly. So you're not getting oil back. Getting enough vapor, that's okay. Not getting enough vapor and not enough oil, and then really high amount of liquid. This would also be overcharge. It's like a slot machine. You know, you pull it and then ching, 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 ching. Did I win? No, I didn't win. And again, these 3 pillars that I teach is because you don't have to do this giant conspiracy theory. You can just do these 3 numbers and say, where should I go next? If I look at this, that's good, that's not good, that's really not good. Why do I have this number insanely high? So where am I going to go? I'm going to go where I measured it. I measured it here. Okay, well, let me follow it back to the path of compression. What does it look like here? Now, if I just had this and that, I would assume, right, the restriction is somewhere in the liquid line. Someone kinked it, someone broke it, someone did something, right? But I came to that conclusion because I did these 3 things, and then I turned around and I said, okay, let me go to this one because I really don't like that, right? This is good, check. This is bad, this is bad, Well, this is bad, not because it's not getting enough vapor, it's got 9 degree suction superheat. This is bad because it's got no oil. Why doesn't it have any oil? Well, probably because the subcooling is so high. Why is the subcooling so high? Well, let me follow it back. Let me follow it back to my compressor. What does it look like all the way back to here? And I will find the problem every time, from here all the way back to here. Something in here is going to have a giant temperature difference across it. There's my problem.
Thanks for watching. If you're willing, give this video a thumbs up and drop us a comment. Don't forget to hit that bell icon to stay updated with all of our future videos. And as a quick reminder, HVAC School isn't just a YouTube channel. Dive deeper with us at our main website, hvacrschool.com. Curious for more knowledge on the go? We've got you covered. Tune into the HVAC School podcast, available on all your favorite podcast apps. And while you're at it, join our thriving Facebook group. Also, don't miss out on our free mobile applications available for both iPhone and Android. We're all about community, for techs, by techs.